This is Crew Tales, Life in the Circus. In the motion picture world, there are an army of dedicated professionals who work behind the scenes to make the movies and shows we watch today. I'm Brad Hodson, and I've spent over 30 years in the motion picture industry. This podcast celebrates the people who make the magic behind the scenes. Dana Barnaby, welcome to the Circus.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us what you do.
Ooh, that's a complicated question because I do a lot of things. I would call myself an artist in general because everything I like to do, I like to create. But has some related to the circus. I'm in the film industry, have been for 30 some odd years now. And I started out on my way up through film school, then through being a camera department, and eventually became a DP. And now I'm a writer director.
How did you get to where you are now? Give us a little background on
Sure.
day one when you wanted to be in the film industry now.
Well, it was my parents' fault because they put me in productions constantly when I was a kid, and they are to blame, but they also didn't like the fact that I got in the circus. You know, it's a bit of a flighty, insecure industry where never pop. You know, jobs aren't every day, and my parents would have had it that, and they would have rather have it that way. But so I got in the industry basically because I loved filmmaking, and I went to film school. I was in a band for years and did that as the first go around. And then once I realized I wasn't going to make it as a professional, just because the hours were crazy and living in a van across the country with all your friends, packed in it gets tiring after a while. So
and film's way better.
Yeah, well, It's a circus too, right? So the next thing I did, jumped in the film industry and went to film school, and then Vancouver Film School here in town. It was awesome. Learned a lot about, how to be a writer director, but it's really just the first stepping stone. You don't learn much in school. It's a certificate to say, here, go in the film industry and now start learning. So started learning, became a camera assistant, production assistant first, I suppose, in commercials. And then someone asked me what I really wanted to do. And I said, I love camera and I want to be in the room. I want to be right beside the action. And that's where, the camera was. So I started and, trainee, a second assistant, focus puller, operator, and then started lighting things and learned the names of the lights and said, okay, let's put that there, and started calling myself a DP and got a lucky break. Somebody was looking to a commercial director, DP, that I was doing at the time, and asked if I thought I could make a low budget production look like Vegas because it was supposed to be shot in Vegas. And they said, can you do that? And I said, sure. Like with commercial experience, I all kinds of lighting and, different things that you don't get on normal every production. So they said, let's try you. And so they tried me out, and that was my first job. And I got paid to be a DP on a movie, and it worked out great. So it just kept going. It kept moving along like that.
What excites you about filmmaking?
Oh, everything, really. I mean, part of the reason that I'm now writing and directing is because I love all aspects of the film industry. I like the pre-production. I love the writing, of course, creating characters, getting excited about, locations and possibilities, and then writing a script that takes you somewhere like to Malta or something where, you can go and film it for 3 months and have a new experience. That's the first part. But then, that's the second part is actually getting the casting and getting, to realize who's the right person for the right part. And so, you're looking at all of those kind of decisions and characters that'll really bring it to life. And then, of course, you get into production, and then you get into post-production. And post-production, I really like. That's one thing I missed probably as a DP so much is that, you get your color timing and stuff, but that's where it ends. Whereas a director and a writer, you're into the end. You're talking about editing. You're talking about like composition in the end, musical scoring and stuff. And so I just love all aspects of it. I love bringing the whole thing together, and hopefully with a little magic, it's a pretty good project and people see it.
So what do you prefer, directing or DP?
I love them both. I mean, honestly, for different reasons. I really do like the visual aspect of being an artist. I think that's, painting with light is super awesome. Like, you really are creating a look that is, discussing with, the production company, the studio, the director about how it's going to look. And I think that's amazing because you're creating something. You really are painting pictures. But I also absolutely adore writing and directing because, again, you're taking that one step further, and not only you're taking a look of a show, but you're creating the mood of a show. You're creating like you're actually doing the dialogue. You're creating sophisticated characters, smart characters, or dumb characters for the fun of it, or whatever you're doing. But you're creating an entire aspect and an entire project from scratch. And I think that's my favorite thing of all.
A lot of the times, commercials, music videos, you'll be wearing both hats as a director and a DP. What are some of the challenges for being able to wear both hats? I mean, certainly time restraints that you can control and sometimes not control, but what are some of the issues you might have doing both?
Well, they're different hats entirely, and I've realized this a few times when I've been a DP on a project and then something's gone wrong and I've had to step up immediately to be the director as well. And you literally have to put a different hat on because you have to look at it with a different voice. You have to look at what they're saying, instead of just what it looks like. And, great, this is where the light's falling and how it's doing. But immediately you have to switch heads and go on hats and say like, okay, what are they saying now? And is it making sense and stuff? Not just how good it looks, right? So when you're doing both, it's, I think, what during the setup, you're looking at the lighting, you're looking entirely at that, you're looking at the blocking, you're making sure it's going to work for the actual aspect of the film making itself. And then as soon as you roll camera as a director, I think you literally have to put on the earphones, you have to listen, you have to change, clear the ideology that you're going to be looking at how that light is falling on somebody where you're saying, now I got to listen to what they're saying. And so it's a different hat you're wearing and it's tough, but you rely great on your crew. You got really good gaffers and key grips and camera assistants and operators. And you just say, okay, I trust you guys are going to get the shot for me. Now I have to just put on the hat where it says like, is the performance there?
Who or what would you say have been some of your influences throughout your career, starting off early and maybe as your career developed?
Off the very, very beginning, I got to work with some pretty amazing cinematographers, Darius Kanji. And is one guy that I just, fell in love with, to be honest with you. He's just the master of the shot. Claudia Miranda, of course, did a few commercials that I was involved with. So, those are amazing people to mentor under and watch how they do it. And the great thing about it is, you think that these guys are amazing. They are amazing, but, it's not really this, far stretched thing that's out there that you can't do. You look at what they're doing. They just set up a shot like you do, and they may have a better, creative idea by coming around the corner or doing something like that. But it's not like it's wild and crazy out there, right? And so you learn from that. And you're saying, hey, I see what they're doing and stuff. And so those are great influences along the way. And I've enjoyed those guys immensely as cinematographers and as directors. I mean, I just really like, Nancy Meyers is somebody who I admire. I also really like Nora Ephron, and those are like the romantic comedy sides. I think those guys can write some fantastic characters. Richard Curtis is, he wrote, he wrote Four Weddings and a Funeral, and he also wrote the one we all love, Love Actually, and so his characters are what makes it so exciting for me because every single person, every single personality, every single character in those movies are just, have something to say and are witty and well developed and things like that. So that's where I come from as far as a writer filmmaker. I like smart acting, smart characters, smart development, and so like they all come together in one piece, and people hopefully fall in love with all the characters. And Cameron Crowe, I love everything he does. So.
Right? Yeah. Who doesn't?
Yeah, truly.
Some of your favorite movies, then?
Almost Famous, of course, watched it a bazillion times. Notting Hill, that's Richard Curtis. I love Notting Hill just because I think it's, the writing is wonderful. The characters are so awesome. A Shawshank Redemption. I mean, sleeper hit, of course, right? Just that seems to be one of the perfect scripts. As soon as you're ready for something to happen, it does. And you're like, great, you're taking me on this journey. I even liked, the far-fetched Star Treks and the James Bond, Long Time to Die. Well, I watched it a bunch of times because I think the character of James Bond and then his girlfriend, in the end, it's such a deep heartfelt love story. And, that's really what I'm a sucker for is when the lead characters come together in a really depth, a really very serious connection. And, just takes me on the journey. And I weep sometimes and fall in love with it. Even as a DP, I'm sitting there watching the action and I'm crying because, it's so awesome. The delivery is so awesome.
Nothing better than a film like a lot of them you just described, some of my favorites as well, that just, they come together in so many ways. They look good. Characters are great. You fall in love with them. One of the things that I always admire in good filmmaking is the beats and the pulse. It tells a story. It does it in such a way that doesn't distract you. It doesn't make you bored.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a craft that we're seeing less of these days, but the classics have that.
The classics have it, and it's one of those things they say, you destroy a movie so many times through its process. You write it and then you edit it. So that's destroying it the first time. Then you shoot it and then you edit it and that's destroying it a second time. And then, and hopefully by the time that you put it together a third or fourth time, magic happens again, like the way that you've written at the beginning. And so that has changed a lot in what we're seeing in movies. I think just because I think there's less time dedicated to the art of it, like the craft of it and things. And I think it's showing just because we have less time on set to do things. We have less takes. We have less, time for editing. Everybody wants it done tomorrow. It's a hard thing to get a movie made nowadays. And then the budgets are always on the edge of not enough sometimes, or and if lucky, too much, but that's rare too. But yeah, so you're always struggling with the actual filmmaking process, and it's harder to make a really great film now just because there's so much pressure to get it done faster and quicker and stuff. But I think that if you start with a great script, which is where I'm always trying to do, and you build good characters, then your actors are going to come in and take those over, and then you have a great start, a good head up.
All the layers for sure. Something I've always spoke of, and I've said it in other podcasts too, is what I admire about my fellow crew members is the crew is really everything. They up and start day one, and they pick up. They don't have to take any time to get up to speed. Really, maybe a little bit of dust here and there, but the crew is what makes it happen. From the moment they say, "Okay, we're on the clock," the crew knows what they're doing, and I think that's very important. But back to what you're saying, I think preparation is everything. So I'm seeing this in my career as time wears on. Sometimes there's less preparation, or there's less time or less money for preparation, which I think is really discouraging, because if you're prepared day one of shooting, that's going to help you a long way, don't you think?
One of my favorite things is what Clint Eastwood always says. Clint Eastwood says it's in the preparation. If he's done his job well enough in the casting and in the writing, 2/3 of it's already finished, and he's picks the perfect actor, and he says, "Go, action," and they deliver exactly what he wants. And I think that's everything. But the problem is nowadays it's you don't have that time as much as you used to, and so you can't have the read throughs like you wanted to. You can't have the rehearsals for weeks and stuff. And so a lot of these movies budgets, people are coming in that you haven't really even gone through the script with and stuff, and you say, action, go, and they have their own take on it. And it's like, okay, that's a wonderful take, but I was really looking for something like this, and you don't really get too many more attempts at it. So I do think it's being pushed to the limits every time with our budgets, but there are some magic that happens. And if you can prepare as best you can, and it's the winning method, right? If you get in there.
True. I think it's apples and oranges, and you may think I'm crazy, but a series
I think you're crazy, Brad, but it's okay.
That's why I'm here. Apples and oranges to like series compared to a feature. On a series, the machine is moving
already. Yeah.
Directors come in, they put their take on it, but really there's not a lot of wiggle room. The machine's already running.
Yeah.
Feature films, you're breaking new ground every minute, every day, and that's why I think for me, working on features is a little more exciting. I love what I do. Don't get me wrong, but on a feature, you're making it up as you go almost, compared to a series where it's been done and you're cranking out a product, but it's still just as fun.
It is. Yeah. But I know the feature film, you're creating new characters, right? It's the first time, other than sequels, but it's the first time you've seen them characters. And so you're giving them a new voice. You've got a new direction. You got a new look and stuff, where you're right. As a TV series, especially as a director in a TV series, you're there to call the shots. You're there to keep it moving. You're there to facilitate the performances, but really, you can't change a lot. You can't go and make some wild decision for somebody and say, "Hey, jump off the roof." Well, no, I would never do that before. So, you can't do that, but that's part of also being a good director in TV, TV land, because that's your job, to understand what's already before you and how to keep it moving as a machine and stuff. So, but you're right. Especially as a writer, getting to start from fresh, like I sit there and go, okay, here's my lead character. And Marco, and then what do? Let's create a world around him. Who lives in his world? Well, he needs a French couple, that they're crazy in love. He needs a young guy, blah, blah, blah. You make this world around him, and you sort of says, okay, how's this going to develop into a family and things like that. And so that's my favorite part of it right now, because I'm really developing into 2 or 3 or 4 scripts that I've got going on this year, which is fantastic. Took the time off to really read it, or really write them all and develop them, and and start working on that craft of how to make a better script at the beginning. So then half your job's done when you're ready to go to production.
And what's funny too is I just recently watched a documentary on Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I didn't know this, but our lead character had a girlfriend, and played by Heidi Klum. And they shot a whole. I know, I was shocked. So
what happened to Heidi?
They cut her out. So they
sorry, Heidi.
So they had the script, shot the whole script, and then took it to focus groups. And it turned out that focus groups didn't like the love interest, which was kind of funny. So they cut her out completely. That's something else that not a lot of people know outside the industry, that and what you were talking about earlier, the script is just a start,
Yeah.
and you're kind of destroying a little bit as you go along. You said destroy, but adapt and move along. But it's kind of funny to hear that
I'll kill it.
what the original script was and what you have as an intention as a director writer, what you get in the end to make it better. And I think focus groups aren't a cheat. I think they're the way to go.
They are. There's certainly a lot of benefits to focus groups because there are a lot of things you as a director may miss, and sentiment is one of those things. You do your best to get that in the performance and stuff like that, but sometimes it just doesn't register. And so, and maybe there's sometimes someone comes up with a suggestion that's just really does save a film in the end. And that's why I say like you kill it several times throughout its process, and then hopefully by the final time you put it together with the focus group included, with everybody in studio, everybody say, the actors say, you do create some magic, and that's what everybody wants in a great film, right? Is that final thing is magical and swoops you away into a magical world, right? And stuff. So,
and similarly, I've worked on commercials in studios that all day to do one little sequence of toy, and you can liken the focus groups to the producers in the room, and 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 takes on something, but you're crafting something that lasts 30 seconds long. So there's something to be said for that.
Of course there is, yeah. And it's a different visual medium entirely because that's one that is, trying to make something immediately attractive to you in 30 seconds or less, when you don't have a really long time to tell a story. So you can't develop into main characters. You can't get in too far into it, right? Mm-hmm. You have to show pretty visuals and go, hey, there's how beautiful this product is and useful, so it's a different entire thing. And I've done both. And I have, directed commercials for many years, and can be fun.
For sure.
Sure. It's trying, but fun.
Tell us some of your favorite projects you worked on.
I was actually involved with Happy Gilmore. I was a focus puller on Happy Gilmore 100 years ago, it seems like now, but and we spent the entire summer on golf courses. It was just great. Adam Sandler was always performing, having a riot, and it was just fun to be around that group of people. And Bob Barker came in for a day, and just that was amazing. So and that was the first time my family ever watched the credits to the end and stood in the theater and clapped as my name rolled by. So that was fun. They that was one of the great things. As far as other projects, I mean, I've been on. I spent 4 days with U2. Working on a music video that was a live performance music video. And I mean, tell you, yes, I was only on stage as a camera operator, but 18,000 people screaming at you, it may not be at me, but it sure felt great. I mean, that energy transfer was just crazy. And it really inspired me to get back into music again too, which I had given up for a little while and stuff. So, I mean, those are some of the greatest projects you can ever do. And I worked with some, wonderful people, no doubt. I worked with Sarah McLachlan several times. I worked on great features and things like that. So, and honestly, my favorite things in the world is to watch a great performance while it's being filmed and just glue myself to the screen and just sit there and get involved with what they're saying. And like I have teared up. I mean, people have laughed at me and watched me watch the monitor because I'm crying because it's so great. The performance is so beautiful. And I just get completely overwhelmed by it and stuff. So I do love all that stuff. And that's my favorite part about filmmaking because it changes daily. It changes all the time. And you can be marveled at all of it,
The amount of times for me too, I can appreciate it, where the phone rings and all of a sudden the next day you're in a helicopter going up a mountain, yeah. or you're shooting U2, or it's just amazing. What I do like about this business is, it's not always that stable, but you never know where you're going to be tomorrow or the next week, right?
Yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted, but boy, I tell you, it's exciting. I've been to some of the best locations in the world. I do remember one scene one time when we were on top of a mountain, 360 degrees, dusk, beautiful. And all I thought was, I wish my parents were here to see this because, it's a very few people get to see this in the world. And I really kind of wish that they had got up there. But yeah, I'm glad I was there. And, somehow shared it with them.
You get to go places that you wouldn't normally go. And you certainly probably wouldn't go on vacation. Sometimes whether it's good or bad.
That's right.
Dana, what are your thoughts on AI and how it is going to affect the industry?
Been thinking about this a lot actually lately because we are in the process of prompting it every day, and the funny thing about it is the people are obviously creating this project. They've done a really great job. The first thing they're doing is putting out some small engines, and they're saying like, this can help you with this editing, and this can help you with this. And I have a friend of mine who's a software writer, and he's got his software writing program on screen. He's got his helper on the screen, and then he's got an AI window. And I said, "What's the AI window for?" And he says, "Well, the company's insisting that I, use the window to help me write it." When I said, "But you're prompting it to learn how to do your job." And he's like, "Yeah, it's going to be obsolete pretty soon." And that's but that's the company's insisting on it. So it is very tough to look at what we're doing because we are prompting it, like, editing software, amazing. I get rid of the ums and ahs, boom, 30 seconds later, it's done. That would take me hours to do. So there are great things AI is doing, but there are a lot of things that AI will never, is going to replace a lot of easy jobs, like, a lot of editing jobs, a lot of, post-production jobs. Good thing, AI is never going to probably completely replace writers. And this is another reason why I'm into writing, because AI, you say something to AIs and, read a joke, and AI only knows it's funny because somewhere it said, that's funny. So AI goes, oh, that must be funny. And that's what it does. But it doesn't know how to read expression or impressions or anything else, and doesn't have timing. So I don't think it's ever going to replace writing entirely, and it will help us, I suppose, and stuff. And I've submitted a script to an AI program and it gave me a reverse breakdown. I thought that was interesting. I know lots of producers are going to use that as a tool for them, where it's like, okay, got 9 out of 10 on this, and it's got like 8 out of 10 on this. And so I guess as a producer, you go like, great, that's the first step. I'll take those notes and go, I'll give this a chance because it, scored well. But, I know a couple people submitted scripts in different various versions, and they sent them to that same program, and the AI spit it out 8 out of 10 on both of them. So I don't know how much I trusted that either. But, I know it's coming. And I'm not a fan. I don't think I'll ever be a fan, because it's not going to be art. It's going to replace the artists in us. And we talked about earlier about, needing the craft. And I think the AI is going to replace a lot of this craft that we're doing. I don't want to be a prompter. I want to be a writer. I don't want to prompt AI to write for me. So
Right. Yeah. I think my thought is it kind of has to settle down. The pendulum has to go one way before it comes back. It's like, look, there's saccharin. Let's put it in my coffee. Well,
Mhm.
you know what? Let's go back to the natural sugar. I think in the future, if we're making films that are all AI, people are going to go, well, that's neat, but I want to see something that's made organically
Yeah.
by the circus.
Sure.
And I agree with you. I liken it to, like you said, a sense of humor.
Absolutely.
I don't think AI can really pick up on proper little subtleties.
Well, and as people have noticed, with even visual effects, in movies where they've gone too far, where you've completely created a human with visual effects and then made them jump from train to train, and it's obvious they don't move like a human, and so your suspension of disbelief is kind of pushed to a point where it's like, I don't give a care really about that character because it's not real.
Yep.
So I think AI is doing the same thing. I think that we're going to see a push forward where AI is going to create some imagery, and it's going to create some words and text and all these things. And some people are going to trust it and they're going to put it out there. And then maybe that movie is not going to do as well as they hoped. And then we'll go, yeah, it's because the dialogue was terrible.
Yeah.
And maybe then we'll go back and say, okay, wait, we don't want to visualize that person anymore, VisFX. Let's go back to making the stunt for real.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, there's so many movies out there that weren't a success. Well, I shouldn't say weren't. They were edited by a first editor, for example, and the movie didn't turn out so great. So they got another editor to come in.
Yep.
Completely different movie, right?
Yep.
So I think, for example, in editing, you could edit your footage 8 different ways and get 8 different pictures in the end, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I think that AI, is AI can do multiple versions. You can, prompt it again and say, create this time and stuff, and it will help some people. I just don't think, like I say, I'm a big fan of craftsmen, and I think that we're the people that are necessary for this job and the emotional creation of this job. And I think that AI is going to be great for certain aspects of it, like, helping us cut time out when we want to get rid of ums and ahs and things like that in speeches. But really, it's not going to help us write scripts to create more emotions and really craft a proper project. It's just going to be in the background. Hopefully, stays there.
what else do you do outside of film?
I do a lot of things. I actually owned a beer company for 5 years. Just sold that, but mostly just because I want to start making whiskey, which I've been making for a little while. All the test products are out and people are liking it. And
You didn't bring any test
I'm not
products
today.
today.
Sorry,
I noticed,
I know. I keep drinking it all myself too.
but you got to sample the wares.
Yeah,
right?
and I also have a non-alcoholic ginger beer that I'm working on. So I got another label that I'm working on called Barnaby's Unhinged, which is me, my last name Barnaby, but unhinged. And so Be Unhinged is what I'm working on. And that may be restaurants and things like that in the future as well. And so, and then of course, like say writing, directing, and I'm a musician as well. So I try to always find a gig here and there once in a while. I play bass and guitar. So I just love the arts in all general thing, and hopefully continue to make money at it. So I kind of keep living this tortured artist lifestyle.
Well, you made it this far.
So far, yeah.
Any advice you would give to people up and coming? I mean, the film industry changes yet remains the same in so many ways. Like the process is still handmade. Films are still handmade. We've gone from film. You and I were in film when it started out. Now it's all digital for the most part. So it changes and stays the same. What would you say to people coming in now?
I had this conversation just the other day with a young cinematographer, and when he found out that I was in the room and that I'd done some stuff, he immediately looked me up and Googled me and saw my demo reel, and he's like, "Oh man, you're real." And I said, "Yes, I am real. I have been in the business for a while." But he was asking the same thing: what would I say now? And I'm a big fan of film schools in general, but they're getting really prohibitively expensive to go to. And the industry right now is changing a lot where there's not as many jobs. So it's tough for me to say go to film school just because I don't know. I'm not sure that's the right answer anymore. But because technology is also caught up so well, iPhones, for instance, you can edit on your own phone and put something out. And then, then people are accepting that quality at the moment. So make some short films, just go in with your buddies and buy a $2,000 camera and make that your A camera and go out and shoot a bunch of things and see how it works. Tell a story, complete it, because so many people don't complete projects. And we were having a discussion the other day about some friend of ours that's a writer, and they just finished the script, which is fantastic. So I tell these kids, shoot some films, complete them to the end, and then look at it and critique it and go, okay, what can I make better? And do another one to the end and keep that mentality going, because completion is hard work, is 90% of this job, right? Is commitment to the project and keep going. And so many people like do something and just let it sit in the back and don't edit it and don't finish it and stuff. Well, that's not helping anybody. So just do it, go and shoot and see if you like it. And, and then you're going to get maybe a better budget and a little bit better budget and a little bit better budget. And eventually the circus is going to come along, the big trucks, and, all those things are going to happen. But that's what I would say. I'd say just go out and shoot for a bit and see if you like it first, and if you love it, I mean, if it's in your blood, you can't stop loving it, then maybe it's time to invest in film school at that point as a writer or director or whatever you want to do, and learn the actual craft of it properly and stuff. Because I still think we're missing that. We still have to be craftspeople. And I don't want people to jump so far ahead that they've forgotten how to be a craftsperson, because it really is an artistic vision and built by craftspeople, this industry. And we need to have that continuously, because that's who makes good projects.
Absolutely. And I'll add to that by saying, when I first got in the business, everything was film. So if you want to make your own film, you need a lot of money.
You did.
Just for the film stock.
Yeah. First processing.
Yep. And then to be able to finish it and cut it was quite the chore. Nowadays, like you said, you could do it on your iPhone. So I would also encourage people coming up in the business to do that. Absolutely. But also listen to people who have been around for a long time, because they're adaptable. They've seen it.
Yeah.
Listen to them and work on your work ethic, because that's number one. In this business, you're only as good as your last job, as they say.
You are. And you're only as good as your crew. I mean, really, when people thank their crews, they mean it. I mean, really, you're not an island at all. I mean, you have to have this great bunch of people around you, and you spend 3 to 6 months sometimes on a project, and you hope that you get along with these people and they encourage you and you encourage each other to move forward every day and want to come back to work and stuff. And because you're creating something together, right? And that's something that, what other industry really is doing that constantly and consistently, right? You're creating an artistic piece together. Yeah, sure. Somebody's getting coffee, somebody's running this way, someone's driving this car, whatever. But together you're making a project, which is amazing.
True that. That's why I put this podcast together. Is I met so many great people over the years who are committed, and they consider themselves craft people, no matter whether they're driving a car or flipping that car. I've met so many good people that I wanted to kind of showcase that.
Yeah.
Thus you're here.
Thank you.
Finally, what's next for you?
So as I said, I'm writing more, and I've actually taken sort of a bit of break from shooting. And I'm just concentrating on next step in my life, which is writing and directing. So ended up writing 3 scripts this year. Just finished another one that I've got a major actor looking at and interested in, and with his production company. So fingers are crossed that we're going to get that sold and producing that. And that's going to Malta if we get there. And, just keep continuing doing that. I really decided to focus really on what I can control, which is the writing part of it, and putting out the best scripts I can and stuff. So, and then, I'm not great at the networking part. That's just something that's just not really part of me. But I got to work on that too, and get my scripts out there and get them read, because that's a hard part of this business, is to get them read and then move forward. So that's my focus for the next little while, is just to write and direct and create a legacy that I can be proud of. So hopefully it works.
Brilliant, Dana. Thank you so much for being on the Circus.
Thank you very kindly. It's a pleasure.
Well, that about wraps it up for another episode of Crew Tales, Life in the Circus. I'd like to thank our producers Dustin Schwinnard and Dustin Girton, as well as our technical producer Rob Hunt. I'm Brad Hodson. Thank you for joining us.